35, which encompasses all of East Greenwich, part of North Kingstown, and I'm embarrassed to say, has it changed? It used to be
2,400 voters in Wakefield.
And 2,400 voters in Wakefield, so thank you.
No more Narragansett.
No more Narragansett, it used to be 4. But anyway, thank you very much. It's Doreen Costa is here and Bridget Valverde. We are holding this in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce of East Greenwich. Steve Lombardi is right here. He's been a wonderful partner through the years. They have been a wonderful partner. And we are holding it here at New England Tech because they are donating this lovely space, so thank you to them. And the Rotarians are here, a couple of them right here, to help us choose the questions randomly. I forgot to mention this the first time, but these questions have been, sorry, I keep getting a little too close to this, I think. Generated by readers. We had a lot of submissions and there was some duplication or different ways, so we have edited them and put them all together, and the Rotary is going to be handing me one question at a time. I think that's it, except to introduce our timers, Greg DeGroot and Kate Glass. Thank you to you guys and Jesse Tolpadu with novapro.media. Thank you so much. And just Stephen Susi, our social media back there, sorry. All right, with that, I'm going to start with opening comments, and we're going to go with Doreen first.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Everybody good? First of all, I would like to thank everybody for attending tonight because this is a really important race. And most of you in the room know me. For those of you that do not, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. My family arrived from Italy. And as soon as my dad got here, he knew that he had to find work. Don't let the last name Costa fool you. I really am 100% Italian. My dad opened up a shoe shine business. He was a cobbler. He owned by Bossett Shoe Repair in Providence. He was so proud. After school, my brother and I would take the school bus to my dad's shoe repair store, and we would shine shoes to make ends meet for our family because we really didn't have much. The other side of my family opened up a bakery on Federal Hill. When I wasn't shining shoes, I was in the bakery helping my family, making bread, frosting egg biscuits, or sweeping and cleaning up. We're a family of very, very hard workers. A few years ago, my mother called and said, "Where's your brother Anthony?" I said, "Well, he just left because he was supposed to pick my mother up from shopping. My brother and I are late for nothing." I said, "Mom, go check on Anthony at home. He probably fell asleep." My mother called me screaming he found my brother dead of an opioid crisis. I lost my beautiful, beautiful, tall, 6-foot-tall, black-haired, blue-eyed brother to the opioid crisis that is devastating families in Rhode Island. I can promise you this, that is going to be my #1 issue. If I have to walk the streets of East Greenwich, North Kingstown, Wakefield, and if I have to go as far as Providence to save one person from the pain that my mother went through burying her son because of the opioid crisis, I promise each and every one of you that I will make that my priority. Thank you.
Bridget?
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you all for being here tonight. It's so wonderful to see so many familiar faces out there in the audience, including my husband Will and my sons Oscar and Elliot, who for the first time have decided they wanted to participate in a campaign event. So I am Bridget Valverde, and I have been so proud to serve as your state senator for the past 4 years. We've been through a lot in that time, and I am so lucky to work with a great team of elected officials who work hard for East Greenwich every day at both the town level and at the state level. Together with the town council and Representative Caldwell, we wrote and passed a law that not only kept MedRecycler from setting up shop on Division, but we protected other communities from having to have that fight about high heat medical waste burning, down the road in the future. I also worked with the town council to pass enabling legislation for the 2-tiered tax system, which would take some tax pressure off of East Greenwich residents. And I continue to help East Greenwich residents access the support they need from our state agencies and other programs that were set up during the pandemic to provide some relief. And on a broader scale, I am very proud to have played a part in some really great legislation in my first 2 terms. We protected abortion rights here in Rhode Island. We passed the Act on Climate to put Rhode Island on a path to carbon neutrality by 2050. We eliminated the car tax and the tax on military pensions. We passed some great common sense gun safety bills. We capped insulin costs and so much more. So we've made a ton of progress, and of course the work is never done. So I look forward to discussing some of that work that we still have to do tonight. So let's go.
Okay, thank you. First question will go to Bridget. This November, residents of East Greenwich will be voting on whether or not to allow retail marijuana sales in town. Do you support this referendum? If you support it, do you have any restrictions on where?
So I absolutely support the town's decision-making process they're going to go through to decide whether or not they want retail marijuana shops in town. It's up to the residents of East Greenwich.
Thank you. Doreen?
Yeah, it's definitely up to the residents of East Greenwich, and there should be age restrictions as well, you know, over 18, all that stuff. I mean, there's marijuana places all over in Providence and Princeton, so why should East Greenwich not get in the tax revenue? So I'm okay with that.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Should the state be, sorry, this is for Doreen. Should the state be enforcing public rights of way to the waterfront?
Well, I think that should be up to each individual, each city and town. I mean, I don't know. I don't know even how to answer that question. I think there's already too many rules and regulations in place, so if people want to go there, they can go there. There shouldn't be any restrictions. It's God's planet.
Okay, thank you. Bridget?
Sure. So I believe CRMC has that jurisdiction to enforce those rights of ways. You know, we have hundreds of rights of ways that have been identified in Rhode Island that are often overgrown, they're blocked. Abutters who live nearby put up fake signs saying there's no parking, there's no access to the shoreline. But access to the shoreline is a constitutional right that we have here in Rhode Island. So it's really important that we do enforce those rights of ways so that people have access to the nearly 400 miles of beautiful coastline that we have here in Rhode Island.
Thank you. One way to, I'm sorry, this is for Bridget. One way to potentially provide more accessible housing units or affordable housing units is to allow people who own single-family homes to add accessible dwelling units, ADUs, what was traditionally known as in-law apartment in a garage or basement. Do you think the state should take a role in allowing ADUs statewide?
Yes, accessory dwelling units are an important part of, of our state's response to the housing crisis. More and more people are living with multiple generations living in their homes, and so accessory dwelling units are a wonderful way for other generations to join a household. You know, my parents are retired in Narragansett, and someday they might want to move in with me and my husband, and if we had the opportunity to build an accessory dwelling unit on our property, then I would welcome that, and I would welcome allowing other residents of Rhode Island to do the same.
Thank you. Doreen?
Yeah, I would recommend that all Rhode Islanders do that. My mother right now is in a senior facility. She lives in a high-riser, and I would love to have her come and move in with me, but you know how moms are, they're stubborn. So, yeah, I agree with Bridget on this one.
Thank you. Thank you. This is for Doreen first. Developers currently have the ability to bypass municipal zoning regulations if they make 25% of their project affordable, deed restricted. Would you seek to change this?
Well, here's the thing with this. Every city in town has a planning commission or a zoning board for a reason, because they want to make sure that everything in their city or town is proper. So to put affordable housing units into East Greenwich, North Kingstown, or Wakefield, we can do that. And I have so many ways and so many ideas that it would take more than 2 minutes. But we have to follow what each city and town has in plan. We can always go in front of planning or the board or the council and ask them to expand it. But right now, we have to follow the rules. Well, it doesn't matter what it is. That's why the laws are in place and each city and town has an ordinance.
Bridget?
So I know this is a hot button issue right now in East Greenwich because of the proposed development over on Division Road. You know, I absolutely do respect, you know, our home rule provisions that we have here in the state of Rhode Island for cities and towns to make their own zoning and planning decisions. However, our affordable housing laws have been on the books since the early 90s in some form or another. And to my knowledge, I don't believe that anyone has tried to amend those laws yet. If that's something that you know, the towns that I represent are interested in trying to pursue through the General Assembly, you know, I'd definitely be open to that conversation. I think that we need to attack this housing crisis in a holistic way. So, you know, I'm interested in pursuing the Create Homes Act, which is an effort being spearheaded by one of my colleagues, Senator Megan Coleman, to create the Department of Housing here in Rhode Island and help the state acquire land to then develop housing, which would include both affordable units and market rate units that would help to finance those projects.
Thank you. Bridget, this will go to you first. Rhode Island protected the right to abortion in the state a couple of years ago. What is your stand on abortion rights? Would you support a ban without exception in Rhode Island?
I would absolutely not support an abortion ban in Rhode Island. Many of you know that you know, I was a proud supporter of the Reproductive Privacy Act, which thankfully has protected Rhode Islanders in the wake of Roe v. Wade being overturned. I am also the lead sponsor of the Equality Abortion Coverage Act, which would remove the current abortion bans that we have on the books in Rhode Island. So no, absolutely not. I would never support an abortion ban.
Thank you. Doreen?
I would not support an abortion ban, and I'll tell you why. Because there are medical emergencies where it's the life of the mother or the life of the child, or if it was rape or incest, that procedures should be able to be provided. So I would not support a full abortion ban.
Thank you. Doreen, to you first. What do you think of Rhode Island's recent gun laws? Should Rhode Island go further?
Well, I think they've gone too far, to be totally honest with you. In a few months, most of us are going to be felons because they passed a magazine capacity ban. You can continually pass these gun safety laws, which you think are working, but they're not, because us law-abiding citizens are not the ones that are out there breaking the law. And then you're talking about confiscation without compensation. So you want us to turn all our magazine bans in, or all our 10 capacity mags in, and if we don't, we're going to jail for 5 years? Most of the people in the Second Amendment community, and I am one of them, don't so much as have a speeding ticket. And you want to make us all felons. It's not going to stop the criminals out there. You're only hurting us.
Same question.
Sure. Well, so, I mean, no one's going to become a felon if everyone continues to be a law-abiding citizen and follow the new law. You know, you can turn in your high-capacity magazines. You can also get a small thing that can modify that high-capacity magazine, and then you can keep it. So we have made some really important progress here in Rhode Island on gun safety. In particular, our red flag law has been important in disarming people who have been shown to be a risk to themselves or others. And so I would really like to see us improve our safe storage laws. One thing that is really hard is that more than 70% of gun deaths in Rhode Island are suicides. When people are having suicidal ideations, when they have access to a gun, they are so much more likely to be able to complete that suicide. Keeping guns out of the hands of people that are, are having suicidal ideations is most important.
Thank you. This is Bridget first. Do you agree with the commitment to make Rhode Island 100% green energy source by 2033 and net zero by 2050? Is this practically and economically feasible?
Yes, I do agree with it, and I don't think we can afford not to meet those goals. We all know that the price of energy has gone up significantly in the past couple of years. And a lot of that is due to the fluctuations in fossil fuel prices and, quite frankly, the price gouging that is going on by these fossil fuel companies who are taking advantage of the chaotic situation in Ukraine to price gouge. And so, we've made some great progress here. We are investing in wind energy and solar energy, and we will have these 5-year benchmarks that we will meet by 2050 to meet our to meet our net zero goals. So yes, I do agree with it, and I think it is possible.
Thank you, Dory.
Yes, I just want to make something perfectly clear. These gas prices were going up way before that Putin war, and this is just what the left wants you to think. So as far as, well, Governor, let's talk about the electric vehicles for 1 second. Governor Dan McKee wants everybody to have an electric vehicle, I think it's by 2033 or 2035. It sounds like a long time, but it's not. Has anybody went to price an electric vehicle right now? My husband and I we went to go look at them. We're talking $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. Right now, people can't afford to put food on their table. Do I care about the climate? Absolutely. I have children. I care about what's going to happen to Mother Earth. Oh, but you cannot impose what you believe on us. In other words, don't tell me to buy an electric car. The old, everybody sees their bumper stickers that says no farmer, no food. I want you to think of a John Deere tractor that has to go into the fields, having to charge their tractor. You want to talk about prices going up of your wheat and your bread and your vegetables? No, I can't support the electric vehicles by 2033. I don't think it's feasible for most of the people in Rhode Island right now.
Elizabeth, I'd like to respond.
Okay. You have 1 minute to respond.
Great. So Governor McKee, with several other governors a couple of months ago, signed on to a letter to the Biden administration asking him to consider coming up with a plan to start to phase out gas-powered cars by 2023 or 2025. He's not saying everyone has to have an electric car by 2023 or 2033, so that's just untrue. I think it is important that we encourage people to switch over to electric vehicles. As their gas-powered cars, are breaking down and things like that. We are moving. The market is moving towards electric vehicles. All of the major manufacturers, so many of them have announced that they will stop manufacturing gas-powered cars by certain dates. So it's just where the market is moving anyway. So whatever we can do to incentivize people to do it and to maybe provide some support so that they can buy those vehicles, we should do that.
Thank you. This question goes to Bridget first. Rhode Island law bans residents from accessing abortion care through state insurance and Medicaid funding. Would you support legislation changing that?
Yes, absolutely. I am the lead sponsor of the Equality and Abortion Coverage Act and have been for the past 3 years. And I think it is, it's discriminatory what we do in Rhode Island right now, that we keep low-income Rhode Islanders and we keep state employees from using their own health insurance to access medical care just because some people think that nobody should get an abortion.
Doreen, the same question to you.
Sure. Well, first of all, if you're on Medicare, Medicaid, and if you're a state worker, if it's an emergency, if it's the life of the child or the life of the mother, you do have access to an abortion. I do ask you to go read the legislation that Governor Raimondo signed in 2019 that codified Roe versus Wade. They can still have access to an abortion. Go read the bill.
This is for Doreen. The truck toll instituted under Governor Raimondo has been ruled unconstitutional. Do you agree with the state's decision to appeal that ruling? If the ruling stands, how would we make up the $30 million annually the state has gotten from the truck tolls?
This is a great question because for people that don't know, I was in the House of Representatives from 2010 to 2016. And I was a no vote on the tolls. And I went around the room and I was talking to everyone there that I could possibly say, this is going to be unconstitutional, this is going to be overturned. And I was right. I was 100% right. Now, Governor Dan McKee said he is going to appeal it. He did say that in the debate last night. The question I have for Governor McKee is how much is this going to cost the taxpayers for the attorneys to appeal this? So I am very proud that I was a no vote on the tolls.
Bridget, same question.
Great. Well, I was not yet in the General Assembly when the truck tolls legislation was passed, but you know that it was passed, those toll year entries went up, and we were collecting much needed revenue to fix our crumbling roads and bridges. That lost revenue is going to be really tough to make up, but you know, I feel confident that I can work with my colleagues in the General Assembly to find ways to plug those holes should the appeal not be successful. You know, as Representative Shanley mentioned during their debate, the federal infrastructure bill that passed this year will be a really great help to Rhode Island because a lot of that money is going to come in here for our roads and bridges. So perhaps we can move some of that money to plug the hole from the lost toll revenue.
Thank you. This is for Bridget first. East Greenwich is one of just a handful of towns with a growing school population. But the 4% state cap on tax increases and school budget allocations, along with the relatively low level of state education aid that East Greenwich receives, are putting the squeeze on the district's budget. What can the state do to help?
Sure. So I am committed to working with my colleagues to take a look at the state funding formula for education. You know, school committee member Nicole Bucca really laid out some of the problems with the school funding formula at the school committee debate really well, that East Greenwich does lose out on a lot of funding opportunities through grant funding, through federal funding, because of the way those funds are allocated. So I am absolutely committed to working with our school committee members and my colleagues to try and update the funding formula so that we can get more state aid here.
Thank you. Dory.
Yeah, the state funding formula does have to be increased. If you look at where all the money's going, it's going into the Providence school system, it's going into Socket, it's going into Smithfield. It's missing residents that live in East Greenwich, in North Kingstown, in Wakefield, because they're considered as an affluent community. We're not so low income like they are down north. So I would definitely work with the city, with the towns, with the town council, the school committee, the General Assembly, the Speaker of the House, whoever I have to work with to make sure that we can get some more money into the schools in East Greenwich and the rest of the District 35.
Thank you. You guys are moving through these so fast, our Rotarians are getting extra exercise. But we have the questions, so that's terrific. Doreen, this is to you. What are your top 3 priorities for the district in the coming years, and what are your plans to address them?
That's a great question. My first thing would be school security. I think every child should be safe going to school, and no parent should have to worry about their child in school. I would also really like to discuss the opioid crisis. I work in this industry. I work for a psychiatrist. I see this every single day. Mental health is such an issue in the state. We do not have enough providers. The phone at the office, I had 2 calls today from Butler. We had 2 young people, 121, 128. They were getting released from Butler today, and they needed to see a doctor right away as part of their rehab. I could not even give them an appointment for 6 weeks. This is not fair to the community. We have to have incentives to bring more doctors in to help with this crisis. We have to get more nurse practitioners to come in because this is really a crisis. So yeah, school, opioid crisis, and I'd also like to, what I plan on doing when I am elected, because I'm very confident about this, because I feel it. I want to help every small business that's on Main Street. Right now in East Greenwich, I want to go into their businesses. I want to know what their concerns are. What would you like me to do to help your business? What is stopping you from growing? What restrictions would you like, thank you. What restrictions would you like to see not there anymore? And I will go into each and every business. I did this when I was in the House of Representatives. I helped many business owners, and I want to continue that because they are the heartbeat of our community.
Thank you. Bridget, the same question. What are your 3 priorities, and how will you address them?
Sure. So it's hard to pick the top 3 priorities. We have so many things to work on. One of my top priorities is going to be to find other ways to provide a little bit of relief to Rhode Islanders who are, our lowest income Rhode Islanders who are, who are suffering under increased pricing and for everything right now, for housing, for energy, for groceries. I agree with Doreen that mental health is a priority. It's a priority in our schools. And so as the Vice Chair of the Health and Human Services Committee in the Senate, I've worked hard to increase access to mental health care, both the providers and with reimbursement rate increases. One thing that is near and dear to my heart, and I know that is near and dear to Councilor Engelhardt, is passing a bottle bill here in Rhode Island to increase our recycling and redemption rates here. Rhode Island is one of the only New England states that doesn't have it, and so our recycling rates are atrocious, and a lot of those bottles end up on our roadways, in our forests, in our waterways. And so that's one thing that I would really like to see happen this year.
Thank you. To Bridget. Do you think elections in Rhode Island are fair and secure? If not, what do you think needs to be done to make them more secure? And what are your views on early voting and voting by mail?
Sorry, the first part of the question, but
Sorry,
it was a lot.
do you think, yeah, I guess it is. Three questions in one here. Do you think elections in Rhode Island are fair and secure? If you don't think they are, what could make them more secure? And what are your views on early voting and voting by mail?
Sure. So I do think that our elections are fair and secure. We passed the Let Rhode Island Vote Act last year, which made voting access easier for a lot of people. I think we could, early voting is a great way to vote for, a lot of people find all of a sudden on election day that they can't make it to the polls, they have to work, their kid is sick. And so early voting provides that opportunity for people to go to town hall and vote for the 20 days prior to the election. which is really great for a lot of people. I know I have taken advantage of it, and it makes it like a much more low-stress thing. You don't have to wait in line. And mail ballot voting is one of the most secure ways you can vote. I would like to see us implement same-day voter registration. Right now, Rhode Island has one of the longest cutoffs before an election for registering to vote. It's 30 days, which, you know, most other states don't have that long of a runway up to an election. So that, you know, that prevents people who have just moved to town from casting their ballot, and so, you know, they're disenfranchised for the next couple of years that they live in, you know, in Rhode Island. So I would like to see that happen.
Thank you. Doreen, same question.
Yeah, I think early voting is working out quite well. It worked out in the primary and last election. However, I do have a serious issue with the mail ballots. There is nobody that, when you sign your mail ballot, you mail it in, there's no notary, there's no second signature, there's nobody stating that it's you. A few of us went to the Board of Elections last, what was it, a couple of years back, and we were looking at some of the mail ballots that they gave us. And if you don't believe me, please go talk to Richard Thornton at the Board of Elections, because this is so very true. There was an X on one of the signature lines where you signed your vote, and the vote was cast with an X. Someone thought it was funny to write a little smiley face, and guess what? The vote was counted. I really think we need to go back to at least having the mail ballots notarized, but now it's just like a free-for-all. You can just put a happy face on and the vote will be counted and nobody's going to know who you were.
Thank you. Doreen, this is to you first. Do you support tax-funded vouchers for private schools? If yes or no, why and how would you propose it cover every Rhode Island child given the sheer number of children attending public schools?
Absolutely. That voucher should carry the student wherever he or she would like to go. The parent should have the choice where to send their child. And I mean, I'm a product, I was in Catholic school when I was small, and then I was in public school. So I've had the opportunity to go to both. I think it's the parent's choice where they would like to send their children. Your tax money is going to the education, so let that tax money follow the child where the parent think is going to do them well.
Bridget, same question.
Do I support tax-funded vouchers for private schools?
For private schools, yes.
No, I do not support tax-funded vouchers for private schools. Public education in this country is one of the, most important things that we can protect. The right to an education is fundamental. And if we are providing tax-funded vouchers for private schools, it just undermines our public education system, to a point where, we will be closing schools. So no, I do not support that.
Yes,
Thank you.
1 minute rebuttal.
Sure. I think like I said, I'm a product of a public school and a Catholic school, and I really think it should be up to the parent, not anybody here, not the legislator, not myself, not Bridget. If you want to send your child to a private Catholic school, you've already paid the taxes. Please send them to where you would like. I am a big proponent of school choice. I'm always looking out for the child, the taxpayer, the parent. I mean, there's some schools that are super bad, and we all know this. You go to Providence, if somebody wants to take their child out of that school and send their tax dollars into a private school, by all means, they should be able to.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Room full of bless yous.
Pardon me.
No, we'll give you a break. All right, this goes to Bridget first. Do you support the Revolution Wind turbine project in development now that will start with around 100 turbines off the coast of Rhode Island and Massachusetts?
Yes, it is an important part of our of making our renewable energy goals here in Rhode Island. Last year, we passed a law to procure so I forget the exact amount, but to procure a lot of energy from that project. So yes, I do support it.
Doreen?
Yeah, I support it as well. If it's going to help financially the taxpayers of Rhode Island, then yes, I do support that 100%.
Okay. You're doing a great job there. This kind of piggybacks, Doreen, I'll go to you. What do you think are Rhode Island's best options for green energy?
Well, we've already had this discussion. We bring the turbines. You know, you want to go to electric vehicles, that's your decision. I mean, we all believe that climate change has happened. People are saying, oh, the mean Republicans, they don't believe in climate change. Well, that's not the truth. We do know that it's happening, and we want to do what's right. But just sometimes the restrictions that the General Assembly and the legislature puts on Rhode Island, it's just a burden. So we just continue to do what we do. We recycle, we do whatever we have to do to save the climate, to help Rhode Island. So I think we're all on the same page with that.
Okay, Bridget, same question.
So, you know, as we talked about the Revolution Wind project, wind energy is going to be a huge part of moving to renewable energy sources in Rhode Island, as well as solar, both commercial scale solar and additional residential solar. Last year, I've heard from a lot of people saying that they were frustrated when they were putting solar panels on their house, that they couldn't put as many as would fit on their roof, that they couldn't sell the extra energy they were generating, you know, back to the grid for other people to use. You know, they had all this roof space, and you know, were capped at how much they could put up there based on their past usage. So last year, I introduced a bill to remove those caps, so that if people want to invest in additional solar panels to you know, help their neighbors, you know, help us all go green, then they should be able to do that. We didn't get it passed last year. There were some concerns from the PUC, but I'm hopeful that we can move forward on that bill this year so that people can put as many solar panels up as they would like.
Okay, this is the last question. Donna and Harry, you've done fantastically, thank you. This goes to Bridget. Would you back universal pre-K for the state in light of childcare shortages and the high cost of childcare?
Sure. So yes, definitely I do support universal pre-K. Investing in early childhood education is really a no-brainer. You know, when kids have a great start with preschool, when they all have access to high-quality preschool, it's a game changer for them. When they go into kindergarten, you know, I'm a substitute teacher in the North Kingstown schools when I'm not doing Senate business, and you know, I see the differences between kids who have had pre-K and kids who have not. So having access to universal pre-K is a must. You know, I will say that it will be tough to get there right now with the state of things. Because we do have a child care crisis, and you know, we do have a teacher shortage. Because you know, pay rates for child care providers and you know, non-public preschool teachers has been so low. You know, people are not going into that field as much. And people are leaving that field. You know, a lot of people have master's degrees in education. You know, they want to work with you know, with our youngest learners. But they just can't afford to. So investing more money in pay for those teachers will be really important for us to meet all of our child care and preschool goals.
Thank you, Doreen.
Yeah, I'm in favor of universal pre-K. Bridget did say that we have a teacher shortage, and we do. So we have to find a way to incentivize to get more teachers into the state, just like we need to find a way to get more mental health workers into the state. That is a must. And the child care, we are in crisis. You cannot get a child in daycare right now because they're packed. They're already at capacity. So we have to find a way to make this better, to have parents be able to go to work and not have to worry about their child. They should be able to be in daycare, pre-K, and we need to figure this all out. Let's incentivize teachers to get here. Rhode Island's a great place to live. There's so much to do here. There's so much to learn. We just need to make that message louder and get some more teachers into the state.
Okay, thank you. We are going to do closing statements, 2 minutes each, starting with Bridget.
Great, thank you. So thank you to everyone who was involved in putting on this event tonight. It's so important to have dialogue in election season, and throughout the year as well. So I've spent the last 4 years, working as hard as I can for all of you in East Greenwich and all of the other residents of District 35. And I've learned so much doing this job. I've learned that sometimes change takes a really long time. And sometimes it comes all at once. But if you're prepared to leverage your experience and you have put in the time to build strong relationships and actually do the work, you can get things done. I've done that in my first 2 terms. I've cultivated great working relationships with members of the school committee, the town council, the rest of the General Assembly delegation, my Senate and House colleagues, issue advocates, and most importantly, the constituents that I serve in District 35, so that I can effectively represent your interests at the State House. I know that we are facing some challenges here in Rhode Island, and your concerns are my concerns. But we also have so much to be proud of in Rhode Island. Every year, we make progress towards a better state, and I look forward to continuing to listen to you and pushing for progress. I've really gotten to know this community through conversations at your doors, at community events, Main Street strolls, Boy Scout celebrations. I've really gotten a chance to learn about what matters most to all of you. I truly love this community, and I love serving you in the Senate. So I hope I can count on your support on November 8th so I can continue to serve you for another 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. Lori, your closing statement.
Yes, first of all, thank you, everybody. Thank you to my husband, Eric, who is sitting out there and is by my side every day. I appreciate you. In 2010, I ran for state representative and I won. I was at the State House from 2010 to 2016, and I was on the North Kingstown Town Council from 2016 to 2018. While I was a state representative, I was the first Republican woman to be in a Democratic leadership, because I can work with both sides. Not every Democrat has a bad idea, and not every Republican has a bad idea. That's why I've gotten bills passed, because we can work together. I passed major sex trafficking legislation to protect children. Sex trafficking, yes, is a big deal here in the state of Rhode Island, and it's a $400 billion industry across the world. My bill was so successful that Governor Gina Raimondo actually called me congratulating me, and we had a formal bill signing, which was to me one of the best things I've ever done as a legislator. Another thing I've done is, if you speak another language and you go to the DMV, you can now have any of your applications in a different language, because I put that legislation in. Rhode Island's so diverse that we had to do something to help them. I've also worked closely with the Gold Star families here in North Kingstown, and one of my proudest moments was having a bridge named from a fallen soldier who lived in North Kingstown, Lieutenant Matthew Kutu. He got killed at the age of 23 in 2005 in Operation Iraqi Freedom. I was on the Veterans Affairs Committee to study autism. And I work with the autism children on Special Olympics, and I love when we win the silver and gold medals. They're so excited, they're so happy. I am on the North Kingstown Parades Committee. I studied higher education. There's so much that I've done as a legislator, and I just want to continue to serve. I've always had a passion to serve, but I had to wait till my children were older. I just wanted to make sure I was able to get them to school and have their dinner ready and tuck them to bed at night. So I am back, I am energized, I have the utmost experience, and I am asking for your support. Thank you all for coming here tonight. Appreciate you all.
Bridget, for being here tonight. Again, I can't say enough how important these sorts of events are, and I appreciate all the people who submitted questions and our volunteers. Thank you. We will take about a 10-minute recess and reconvene for the final forum, that is House District 30. Thank you.